name is ZeBirdBrain, and today we are talking about cleanup, but more specifically, cleaning up with that thing. So when people think of the line tool, they think of, lines, which is kind of boring. Like, how am I supposed to clean up a drawing using lines? I mean, you can do it, and it could look pretty nice, especially with a darker color. There you go. So you can clean up with, like, lines if that's your style, but that's not usually what you want. So, and when I'm talking about line tool cleanup, I'm talking more about something like this, where if I want to make this mouth, I could just do this and then... So this is a bit similar to when you use the polyline tool in other softwares. By doing this, you can really do some nice, fast cleanup that has a more, I wouldn't say dynamic, because you can get some very dynamic cleanup with the pencil as well. But it's more like solid and very, very smooth, if that's the style you're going for. Cleaning up with the line tool is not going to make your art prettier than cleaning up with like the pencil tool or something, but it does give it a different feel from what I've experienced. And it's a very simple way to get a very geometric style of cleanup as well. So just how do you do that? Well, that's what I'm going to show you today. Woo! So if you take the line tool, by default, you are going to draw lines, hence what the name is. But to draw a more curvy line, what you have to do is find your starting point. In that case, it'll be like this little point here. I'm gonna first draw the little thing here. There you go. And then if I want to draw this, you click where you want your line to start, then you go where you want it to end. And then once you find where you want it to end, you press on Control or Command on a Mac, and this is going to nail down where your line tool is. And then if you keep dragging your stylus, it will give you like a curve. And if you lift your stylus up, the curve will stay like that. So once you get used to it, it's a very fast way to clean up. But like I said, you have to get used to it. Because at first, when you're gonna try it, you might be doing things like, okay, I click, and then I press Control, and then I release Control, and oh crap. The order is you click, you drag where you want, you press and hold Command or Control, and then you drag. And while maintaining Control or Command, you then lift your stylus. Or you stop clicking, because you can also do that with a mouse, you can also do it with a trackpad. I am known to be a very potent trackpad cleaner. I've cleaned up a lot of drawings using my trackpad because I do lots of work in an airplane and in the bus and commuting. And I don't always have the room to bring out my tablet and start doodling and whatever. So for cleanup, the line tool is amazing. It's phenomenal. So I'm gonna use this drawing again to show you some little tips on how to make it easier too. So one of the common kind of failure that people will do using the line tool is that you draw a line. Yes, you curve it, and then you start at the end and you draw another one, but then they're not linked together. If you press on the K key on your keyboard, you see they're not linked together. So just like the pencil tool, it's important to make sure that your gaps are closed. If you want to know how to do that, I have a whole video about how to close your gap when you clean up. My best advice is to use the Alt key to link your lines together. They're linked together, but they're not joined. Remember, if you click on one or the other with your Select tool, you can still tear them apart, which is where it can look a bit cheap when you use the line tool. I'm gonna show you why. Because when you draw, then you're gonna see clearly if you're trying to do this lovely like S shape. If you're trying to do that with your line tool, you're gonna have the first part of the S and then press Alt and link it to the next one. But you're gonna usually see that there's kind of a dent that can happen, especially if you're not experienced. So to prevent that and to give it a more natural feel, especially if you're using one of the stencil here that has like thickness. My favorite one is medium tapered thickness stencil. This basically fakes a thick and thin in your line tool, because the line tool doesn't have any pressure, so you cannot really see pressure when you draw with it. But yeah, so if you have this and you draw, for example, the first curve, and then you Alt click and make the next one, you have pressure, but it's not natural, because when you draw, usually if you draw like with a brush or something, it would get thinner toward the center, because you would put more pressure toward the center as you clean up, not do something like this. It doesn't make sense. So to fake this using the line tool is super easy. All you have to do is use a very useful tool called the line building mode, that thing over here. If you have this active and you draw a line with your line tool, if you start a new one, but not from the end, from a bit before, and you draw, it will kind of unite the thickness of the line, allowing you to kind of build your lines as you go. And it will always give them a very, very smooth, unified look. It's kind of hard to explain, but as you do it, you will kind of get what I mean. By that, you can kind of start to build your line. And I will end it here because I want this to be thin. So then I have a thin start, a thicker middle, and a thin end. And then I can just start from here. And instead of doing this and this, which is not bad, but sometimes when we draw, like the reflex would be to kind of do something like this, like a motion of this whole line. So usually this part could be thicker. So what you can do is do something like this where you make it thicker here, and then you take your eraser and you can erase this bit, and then just continue from here, and it will maintain the thickness. So it's very nice to do this. So I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it from closer. Here my line is thick and here it's small. You can keep it small if that's what you want, but if you want to give this more strength, you can also make your line longer, and then if you take your eraser and you stop here, if I start another line, it's going to maintain the thickness from this part, on and on. So that's usually how I clean up my things, and it's a very, very fast way to clean up your artwork. Oh, see, this was gorgeous, because if I would have done that, it kind of feels a bit not hand-drawn, but then as I release, because of the line building mode, it will unite my lines together to give them a very, very dynamic feel. Then you can just keep going, and then instead of ending it like this, which works, you could also give it an extra push like that to have it a bit thicker, and do something like that. So both sides, I think, look great, but they're different, and they're different because it's a different way to use the tool. So, like I said, there's no bad or good way to use it, it's just two different things. And I know that when I use the line tool, I cannot use it without the line building mode. It's just so great, it's so fun to work with this. Then again, it's just another technique to clean up. For some styles, it's way better to use the pencil tool, but for most of the things you're gonna do, the line tool is gonna be very, very useful. You just have to get used to it, but it's a very, very good way to clean up. And don't assume that it's just for very, very geometric styles. A lot of very cool features and movies use that technique. Like I've seen some making of for clouds, and they use that to clean up. So, yeah, it's a very, very, very cool way to clean up, and I hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day!